Good morning, Boker Tov, Shavua Tov. It is that time of year again, the Pre-Pesach Workshop. And no, despite the several requests, I'm not here to announce that Pesach is canceled. And that's really actually what I want to begin with, is that we would never want Pesach to be canceled. Pesach is amazing. Pesach is incredible. Pesach is the Chag HaGeula. Pesach is family. Pesach are flavors and smells and sounds and recipes. Pesach is redemption. Pesach is unbelievable. So who would ever want it to be canceled? It's such a bracha. And if we lean into the work of Pesach, it's mamish transformational. Now, I know you're cynically looking at me and you're saying, that's easy for that guy to say because he doesn't do any of the work. But I will tell you that if there's any guy who does a lot of work, not necessarily cleaning and cooking and shopping, but cooking up drushes and shiurim and the like, it's me. So Pesach is a lot of work for rabbis too, and I wouldn't have it any other way. There's nothing I would want different. Pesach is absolutely amazing. It's incredible. And we should carry the attitude that the Jews who were denied and deprived Pesach, who actually turned to Hashem and said, Lama nigara, why should we be deprived? Why shouldn't we have Pesach? Why don't we get to Pesach? Those Jews who were carrying the bones of Yosef, those Jews who carried a Meis Mitzvah, whatever the reason that stimulated, that provoked Pesach Sheni, when they turned to Hashem, they turned to Moshe and they complained, Lama nigara, why should we lose out? Why should we lose out? And they really created for us the attitude that we're meant to have, is why should we lose out? Many of us would have said, no Pesach? Exempt? Impure? Ineligible? So sad, but fantastic, amazing, Pesach's canceled. But they didn't say that. They said, Lama nigara, what do you mean? What would a Jewish year look like? What would a Jewish family look like? What would we be if we didn't have Pesach? Questions and answers and communication and liberation, emancipation, a conversation about freedom, the birth of who we are, identity, our family narrative, our family stories, our family reunions. So the first thing is, even before we get to the nitty-gritty and the kashering and the ingredients and the medicines and the cosmetics and all the things, which basically, by the way, spoiler alert, just watch last year's or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Pesach is more or less the same. It's a few differences. We'll highlight some of the changes that are not fundamental, certain ingredients. Pesach's more or less the same. But before we get into nevertheless answering all those questions and taking our tour of the kitchen and going through our list of ingredients, I can't emphasize and focus enough how much we should embrace with joy and with a geschmack and with happiness and with energy, the beauty and the love of preparing for Pesach. We share this, I think, every year, but the Rasha comes to the Seder table. At least he's there. He's the fourth son. The fifth son never even makes it to the Seder. That's the tragedy in America, the assimilation of the American Jew. The fifth son who never even makes it. The fourth son, the Rasha, at least is still there. And the fourth son says, Ma ha'avodah azos lachem. What is all this work for you? And we blunt out his teeth and we smack him in the face, figuratively, not literally. And of course, we have the answer that the Torah prescribes for the Rasha. But when he asks, Ma ha'avodah azos lachem, what is all this work for you? Who is he talking to? And what is he talking about? And Mar Rabbi Rav Asher Weiss and others suggest, you know who he's talking to? He's talking to the mother or father who for the month before Pesach he heard krechts and moan and groan and complain bitterly on the cost and the prices and the work and the effort. And he says, Maha avodah azos. If it's such an avodah for you, if it's so miserable, if you're crying and krechtzing and complaining and you hate it so much, I'm out of here. Why would I want to do this for myself? So I'm not going to look for a spouse who wants to make Pesach. I'm not going to raise children with a Pesach. I'm not going to work and spend my hard-earned money on Pesach because I grew up in an environment, in a home, where all I heard was, what an avoda, what an effort, what a toil, what a work. So we create and we mold and we birth that Rasha when we communicate the avoda, the toil, the effort, the pain. It doesn't mean we can't have our moments. It doesn't mean we don't have our backache. It doesn't mean that it's not stressful and difficult. But the overarching, overall theme and what our children should walk away, which they should remember from growing up in our home is, Pesach, amazing. We're going to clean, we're going to shop, we're going to cook, we're going to chop charosas, we're going to grind maror, we're going to set a Seder table, we're going to prepare Divrei Torah, and we love Pesach. We love Pesach. It is so foundational. It is so critical. It is so definitional to a Jew. And as important as the chumras, and as important as the cleaning, and as important as chametz being asur b'mashu, and as important as all the details are of Pesach, is this first detail of what attitude do we communicate. So I want to suggest this year a new chumrah for Pesach. And the chumrah for Pesach this year is be happy. It's a new chumrah. It's a new chumrah. Prepare for Pesach with joy, with simcha, with happiness, with a bren, with a fire, with a geschmack, and with a joy. And bring to Pesach also not only the external preparation of Pesach, not only the outside, which we're going to talk about again in a moment, not what you thought you were coming to at the Pesach workshop. We'll get to the workshop in a second. More important than the workshop. But we should also focus not only the externals. How do I kasher? What do I sell? What about my chametz? Which ingredient? We'll get to the salmon at Costco. We're going to get to it all. We're going to get to the baby carrots. We're going to get to the coffee that doesn't have, we'll get to it all. But before the cosmetics, the deodorants, the perfumes, we're going to get to it all. But before you get to any of that, all the preparation for Pesach can't only be chitzonius. It can't just be superficial, surface, external. There's a pnimius. There's something we're going through to transform ourselves. We're on this journey from slavery to freedom. We're looking for something. We're looking for something. And that's the first step of this conversation of what we're doing to prepare for Pesach, this search and destroy mission that we are going on. Because we know, as we say every year, there are three mitzvahs, I say three positive commandments to get ready for Pesach. Lahashbis sa'or, to destroy all leaven. Le'achal matzah, to eat matzah. And lasaper yitzias mitzrayim, to tell the story of leaving Egypt. There are 5 negative prohibitions of Pesach. There's a Isser, a prohibition of lav. You can't eat chametz from chatzos erev Pesach anan. You can't eat chametz all week of Pesach. You can't even eat a mixture of Pesach. Pesach is so chamor, it's so stringent, it's so strict. You can't even have a mixture. So it's the only ingredient that's not kosher. Then not only do we have the explicit prohibition for the ingredient, but even a mixture containing that ingredient. Lo yira and bayira bayimatzah. You're not allowed to see and you're not allowed to find chametz. It doesn't mean that when you walk through Publix, you have to put on your solar eclipse sunglasses when you pass through the bread aisle. It doesn't mean you're not allowed to see chametz. You could see chametz that doesn't belong to you, but it means you can't find or see chametz that is your own. So 3 positive mitzvahs, 5 negative prohibitions. Chametz is unique in 5 ways. Right? We're setting up why chametz is the arch enemy of Pesach. Why we're obsessed, why we're so hyper-focused on getting rid of chametz. Number 1, we have a specific law, a specific prohibition of any mixture containing chametz. Number 2, we have 2 prohibitions to even own, even possess chametz, unlike other ma'achalos asuros, unlike other forbidden foods. Number 3, we have a positive commandment to destroy, to obliterate chametz. Number 4, it's asur b'hana'ah, you cannot benefit at all, which is why when we get to the pet section, you can't even feed chametz to pets. And number 5, it's asur b'mashehu. It's the only food who is prohibited even in the most minute, smallest amount. We don't rely, certainly once Pesach has started, we don't rely on bittul, we don't rely on nullification, even though we rely on bittul other times. Chametz is asur b'mashu. What is chametz? Chametz is any leaven made from the 5 types of grain. What are the 5 types of grain? Wheat, spelt, barley, oats, and rye that is mixed with a liquid and allowed to ferment for 18 minutes or more. That is chametz. That is the definition of chametz. Kitniyos. Is kitniyos chametz? No. What are kitniyos? What are kitniyos? You know, if Moshe Rabbeinu became alive today, he'd be eating for Bekiva and the great Tanam, Amoraim, Abai, and Rabba are alive today, they'd be eating kitniyos. There was no Ashkenazi Sephardi. But in the Middle Ages, the Ashkenazim took upon themselves a prohibition to not eat legumes, kitniyos, that which qualifies as kitniyos. And there's a debate. Why is that? One of 2 reasons. Either because kitniyos are foodstuff, ingredient that can be manufactured in a way that resembles chametz, and therefore you might be confused and come to eat chametz. And the second reason was chametz, kitniyos were ordinarily packaged and shipped in sacks in which the merchants who produced and sold it would add flour or grain in order to bolster the sack, to make it look fuller or feel heavier. And therefore there was the fear that chametz could be mixed into that sack of kitniyos and one could come to eat chametz. It's not chametz, but there were these concerns. Ashkenazim accepted this prohibition of chametz, of kitniyos. Sephardim did not. Kitniyos also became frozen in time for that time, meaning whatever was included in the original prohibition of kitniyos was included. Later foods that could be confused with chametz were not, which is why today, if you go to a kosher supermarket, if you go on a Pesach program, you're likely not sitting here, but if you go to a Pesach program, you will be served kosher Pesach bagels, bread, pizza. In fact, I recently heard from one Rav HaMachshir of a Pesach program that one year the Pesach program did not have the chametz pizza to serve at the Motzei Pesach chametz party for the people who have not eaten in 8 days and were starving for some chametz. So they served the kosher Pesach pizza, and people were like, "Oh, delicious chametz pizza. It's amazing. We're back. Thank God. Finally, they had no idea. That's how close the kosher Pesach pizza tastes to chametz stick pizza. And maybe try that with your kids this Motzei Pesach. Don't bother fighting for the auction to be the first online in the local pizza stores. Heat up some of the kosher Pesach pizza and serve it and say it's from the local pizza store. See if anyone notices. My father one year performed a tremendous hate crime against our family. It took a few months to figure it out. But he put some leftover Pesach ketchup in a Heinz bottle. It wasn't long until we realized something's wrong with this. And I like the sweet ketchup. That's true. In any case, back to our regular scheduled topic. So kitniyos are not chametz, and the things that today can be confused with chametz are not included because kitniyos were that which at the time was considered kitniyos. Kitniyos is not chametz, which means Sephardim don't hold of it. Some Moroccans still don't eat rice, others don't. But Sephardim generally did not accept kitniyos. Ashkenazim do, but it's not chametz. That means that if it fell into a mixture, it would be nullified. It means that if a kli, if a vessel were used for kitniyos, that vessel could still be used. You could benefit from that on Pesach. And that comes up a lot. A lot of baby formulas have kitniyos. Some medicines have kitniyos. You don't have to treat it. We have the practice of not eating it, but you don't have to treat it like chametz in terms of being afraid of it falling into a mixture or where you wash it from. Okay, so chametz is our arch enemy number one, and we are hyper focused on getting rid of it, and we get rid of it in three different ways. We get rid of it through bittul chametz. The opening Mishnah of Masechet Pesachim tells us it's enough to relinquish ownership. So what do you have to do? You could on Erev Pesach, little secret, from a biblical perspective, all you have to do is say chametz, you and I are no longer getting along. It's a problem in me, not in you. I'm breaking up. And therefore, I hereby declare all chametz nullified. I'm relinquishing ownership. I have no relationship with it anymore. It doesn't belong to me. And that's it. Your house is now ready for Pesach. You are now ready for Pesach. You've broken up with chametz. You are good to go. You are good to go. But we don't rely on that. In addition to that, we do bedikas chametz. We go on a search and destroy mission. We look throughout our entire house. Why do we do both? Why do we do both methods? If relinquishing ownership is enough, why do we search and destroy? Searching and destroy, why do we still recite a bittul? Why do we still recite bittul? You know, if you're leaving for Pesach, within 30 days of Pesach, you still do bedika the night before you leave without a bracha, but you still say kol chamir v'chamir, you still say the bittul. Why do we do bittul if we're doing bedika? Why do we do bedika if we're doing the bittul? And the answer is very simple. Again, all this is the Rashi and Tosfos in the beginning of Masechet Pesachim, and Mishnah Berurah quotes it in Siman Tov Lamed Aleph. And all the reason is very simple. Because what if you say bittul chametz, you're relinquishing ownership of your chametz, but you don't really mean it? What happens if you didn't really mean it? Because you didn't mean it about that special donut. You didn't mean it about the thing that you really love. And then you're going to come to find it, you're going to come to eat it on Pesach. So relinquishing ownership, you thought you relinquished ownership until you discovered that chametz by day 3, 4, or 5 of Pesach, you're craving it and you find it, and now you're going to still eat it. So we search and destroy so we're not tempted by it. But once we're searching and destroying, why do we still do bittul? Why do we need to relinquish ownership of it? Because what happens if you did a bedika, but you didn't find everything? And then you're going to stumble across something on Pesach, at least you still won't violate the prohibition because you will have done bittul, you will have nullified your relationship with it as well. We have to do a third method. And the third method we did it earlier this morning. Many people stopped by my office. We have many times scheduled. You can still do it. You can do it on the website. Not as good as doing it in person, but you can do it on the website, which is mechiras chametz. We sell the chametz. So we say, I'm going to search and destroy. If I didn't find something, I'm doing bittul, I'm relinquishing ownership. And if there is chametz in my possession, I don't own it, I'm selling it. And there are those who have the custom, b'chor shor, and others, not to sell chametz mamish. And there's a list of what qualifies as chametz mamish: bread, pasta, cereals. Some don't sell actual chametz; they only sell mixtures that contain ingredients of chametz. That is a custom. Others, even if they don't sell real chametz, there's one exception to that rule, and they sell liquor, whiskey, scotch, because it is very expensive, sometimes irreplaceable. People have an unhealthy emotional relationship with their collection, and they're willing to sell that. Others make a big concerted effort before Pesach to destroy the chametz by consuming it, to make sure they get rid of it before Pesach. But we do mechiras chametz. In fact, the origin of mechiras chametz, which we won't take the time now to elaborate on, we once gave a whole showers ago the drasha of it. It all began with liquor collections. The mechiras chametz began when there was a factory or a warehouse where a Jewish merchant had all of their alcohol, all their liquor, and they couldn't dispose of their inventory. So They sold it. Then it changed and it evolved. Even the chametz that remains in our home to be able to sell it, something it's a harama, it's a legal loophole. In order to avoid the legal loophole, we actually appoint the shliach, the agent, to sell the chametz, and we undergo a kinyan sudar. We do something to demonstrate the agency. Some are even strict, not only to give money. The origin of giving money to the rabbi who sells the chametz is in order to show that he's really an agent, that this isn't a legal loophole, it's not a halachic fiction, that it's real. Money is given to the rabbi. Today, all the money that I get when we sell chametz goes to Moschit, and it helps people, the incredible pre-Pesach market that we're going to offer for hundreds of families to come take what they need and what they want. All the money goes there. There are some people who nevertheless insist on giving me money personally because they want me to be their agent and to show the seriousness of the agency to actually give money in the appointing of the agency. So we have these three methods in order to get rid. But I want to suggest to you a focus this year is on the bedikas chametz. When we're looking for the chametz, we're not just looking for chametz. Those 5 grains allowed to sit for 18 minutes mixed with a liquid that turn into chametz. We're not just obsessed with and looking for the actual chametz on our hands and knees, climbing on the ladder. We'll talk all about that in a moment. But we're looking for what chametz represents. We know the Gemara Chazal tell us that Sa'or Shebe'isa, there are 2 things that keep us from Mashiach coming, what we indulge in. And that is the Sa'or Shebe'isa, the leaven and the bread represents our Yetzer Hara. We're looking for our evil inclination. The bedika, the search, the mission that we're on is not just about surface, superficial, some external enemy called the chametz. We're looking for the chametz within ourselves, within our heart, within our neshama. And what is that chametz? In the Haggadah Shlema of Menachem Mendel Kasher, he lists 6 parallel similarities between chametz and avodah zarah. If you look at the halacha, in halacha, there are no less than 6 similarities between chametz and avodah zarah and idolatry. It's all based on a pasuk. Mishku ukechu lachem tzon. Mishku, eradicate. The language is very similar between the obligation to purge and eradicate idolatry and to purge and eradicate chametz. And the message to us, both are forbidden to own, both need to be burnt, both are forbidden to benefit from, both are forbidden even in negligible measure, both can be eradicated with nullification, both prohibitions demand a bedika and a search. 6 similarities or parallels between idolatry and getting rid of chametz. The Imrei Pinchas, the Heilige Imrei Pinchas, the Pinchas of Karatz, one of the Hasidic Rebbes, and his Imrei Pinchas, he lived in the 18th century. He writes, Ikar bir chametz u bir avodah zarah. The Ikar bir chametz, searching and destroying chametz, is getting rid of the avodah zarah in our lives. That's why it says in Yoshiyahu, Shabir es kol avodah zarah, v'nemar sham ki lo nasa kepesach hazeh, v'lekach nismach Elohei maseicha lo sa'aseh lecha, lifso es chag hamatzos tishmor, lepasek es chag hamatzos tishmor, v'yomala yikol Yisrael surfen es chametz b'kavana zu levar avodah zarah, v'ad gringer geven de golus. If this would be our kavana, if when we search and destroy when we're looking all over our house and we're cleaning our rooms and we're going through our kitchen, if when we come on Erev Pesach and we take our chametz and we throw it in the big metal vats and we burn it, if our kavana would only be, this represents the avodah zarah in my life, then we bring the geula, we bring Mashiach, we put an end to all of this anti-Semitism and all the wars for Israel. We could end it all if only we would have this, kavana, So what is this avodah zarah? Chametz represents avodah zarah. This journey, this process, this exercise is to look for, is to get rid of this avodah zarah. What is this avodah zarah? So we think of avodah zarah sometimes as being something silly. Like, who would worship an idol? Right? We think of the story of Avram and his father. Who's bowing down to stone and rocks and is silly? It sounds like it's something silly. The Kibbutz Tats points out, it's not silly. If it were silly, it wouldn't be usher. Torah doesn't have to come along and prohibit things that are silly. So what is it? Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim because Mitzrayim was a place of superstition, sorcery. It was a place of silliness. And Jews, Klal Yisrael, we were meant to be different. Hashem took us out. Don't follow silly superstitions. Don't indulge or give into that. We have a Hashem. We live with Amunah and Bitachon and Dvekas. We cling to Him. Everything is from Him. Everything is by design. Everything is carefully curated and choreographed from above. All of our life and everything that happens in it comes from Hashem. Avodah zarah is anger. Anger is avodah zarah. Kol hakoyes kilo oved avodah zarah. If you indulge anger, because what's at the core and the root of all anger is ego. Who are you worshiping? Yourself. When things don't go your way, when people don't behave the way you want them to, and you get angry and frustrated and filled with rage, you are indulging in idolatry. So that's avodah zarah in our day. Money is avodah zarah. People who worship avodah zarah, who bow and surrender to people who have money, celebrity status, influencers, a big following, being taken by that. That's a form of avodah zarah. There are countless examples I'm not going to take the time now. The avodah zaras of our generation, many later Mefarshim bring down the avodah zaras of our time. When we assimilate in our values, when we start believing what the world around us believes about certain identity politics or intersectionality or certain philosophies and ideologies, that's avodah zarah. When we surrender to certain segments of the community, that's avodah zarah, that's idolatry. Why am I sharing all this with you at a Pesach workshop? Like, enough already. Get into the kitchen, get into the ingredients. What are we talking about over here? The answer is because this is the avodah. So we began with, Rabbi, are you going to announce there's no Pesach this year? Why would I want to announce that? Why would you want me to announce that? What would our life look like if we didn't search and destroy these avodah zaros? That once a year we spend the time to look in our own lives and look in our own hearts and find what we need to get rid of. What we need to get rid of. Anger and worshiping money and celebrity and influencers and ideologies that are foreign, that aren't ours. We have to get rid of these. Why would we want to miss Pesach? I'll tell you one last one, then we'll get to the kitchen because you're going to make me. I'll tell you one last one. An avodah zarah is, what's the difference between chametz and matzah? Same exact ingredients. There's only one difference between them. What is it? Both are made of flour and water. What's the only difference? Time. Chametz is se'or shebe'isa. It's the leaven. It's time. Chametz is leaven. It's inflated. It represents a waste of time. There's an avodah zarah to squander time. Open up your phone, not right now, and go and look at your screen time report and see, because the phone doesn't lie. Your screen report doesn't lie with how you spend your time. And that's also an avodah zarah. To scroll mindlessly, to watch endlessly, to binge, that's avodah zarah. Giving into this avodah zarah to watch. Our screen time doesn't lie. So part of bedikas chametz, and here's an idea this year. Gather your family, and before you start searching for the 10 pieces of bread, or after you finish searching for the 10 pieces of bread and you say kol chamira, everyone take out your phone. Everyone look at your screen time. People don't have to admit it to one another because we'd probably be incredibly embarrassed and ashamed. And take upon ourselves, how are we going to work on this? Don't just get rid of chametz, get rid of apps. Which app are we getting rid of this year? What chametz are we getting rid of in our life? What time waster are we going to get rid of in our life? What are we cleaning up and cleaning out of our life? So I'm sharing this. There's a lot more to say about it, but I'm sharing this because this is the most important part of the Pre-Pesach workshop. Okay, we'll do the kitchen, but only because we have to. But this is the pnimius, the internal effort. The real part of what we're doing is this. So what? Lama nigara. Why would we ever want to be deprived? Why would we want to be deprived? Nebuch on the people who go away for Pesach, who don't do a real bedika. They just show up at a hotel room, they do a cursory bedika, they get ready for the program, we took care of everything. I don't mean nebuch, I'm not ranking on them, I don't have any judgment of them. Everyone to each their own. They have to figure out, some families can only be together if they go to such a program. Some people can't make Pesach for themselves. I'm not one of those people who rank on it. It's beautiful, enjoy it, love it. But find the way to tap into the panemius, no matter what your matzav is. You're staying home, you're going away, whatever your situation, connect to the depth of what Pesach's about. And let our children see us do that. You know, before, this is the last thing I'll say about this. Before you put out the 10 pieces of bread to hide. We've tried to do this for several years since I first saw it. I think Rebbetzin Yemima Mizrahi quoted it, Rabbanit Mizrahi. She said, each of the 10 pieces of bread, give it to a child and tell them to assign something in their life that they want to get rid of. A part of their personality, a midah that they need to work on. Maybe they get angry, maybe they feel jealous, maybe they're too lazy, what's something they want to work on? And to have kavana. It's not just like a hide and seek fun game, but there's a kavana, there's a mindfulness, there's an intention to everything that we're doing. So each adult and each child who's hiding the chametz, associate with that piece of chametz a trait, an attribute that we want to work on, that we want to get rid of. And then when you search for it. And then when you go burn it, think about, okay, what are we burning? What are we getting rid of? What are we purging? What are we improving? That's really what it's all about. That's what it's all about. So it was worth coming just for that. And even if you're staying home, going away, your kitchen's already, it's being catered. But the pnimius, Pesach, I love it. I work hard. People around me work very hard on Pesach. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I look forward to it. I can't wait for it. It's amazing. Family connection, family narrative, story, the flavors, the sights, the sounds. This is what creates Jewish continuity. If you want a Jewish future, it's the messages. We don't want to give birth to Rishaim. The Rasha is going to come to our Seder and say, Ma avodah zos lachem. For you, it's such an avodah. You're breaking your back. You're miserable. You're fabisana. You're angry. You're resentful. You're bitter. All I hear is krachting, complaining, and groaning. So I'm out. I'm done. For a long time, we could rely on children not being done. They felt bound. They came to the Seder. Children today, if their parents seem miserable about their Yiddishkeit, they say, I want no part of that. Why would I want to be part of a miserable Yiddishkeit? I'm out of here. I'm out of here. And they're out of here. And they're out of here. If we don't want them to be out of here, we got to do everything we can to keep them in. Okay, the halachas. Let's go through some halachas. Maybe we'll do a little shorter this year, because really it's all the same as the past. And I provided this for you. Take this paper. It has everything you need to know. Thanks to technology. In my years in the rabbinate, it's got easier and easier for rabbis, because there are incredible resources to access in real time all your questions. So we have here a link for the sale of chametz, moschit and donations, the CRC guide, the OU Passover guide, the Star K Pesach guide. They are indispensable resources. They also come in apps. You can download the CRC app. They're searchable apps. Every ingredient you want to know, how to kasher induction cooktop, it's all there. It's all there. I find personally, I'm sorry to favor one, but the CRC I find to be the most user-friendly, and I also appreciate its psak, where it's coming from. So I highly, highly recommend the CRC guide. Again, you could download the CRC app on whatever device you have. You can look at the CRC guide on their website, and it is really, really excellent in guiding from medications and cosmetics to pet food to dairy to all of these things. It's really all there, and I highly encourage you to use it, to utilize it, to look at it, and it updates in real time. As new questions are asked and they're having answers, as we're getting closer to Pesach, it has frequently asked questions and it updates. I saw just this year another website I will alert you to. Kashrut.com, KASHRUT.com/Passover. And there it has, I don't know, there must be 100 links on here to every kashrus agency and every list that you might want to find. And if you can't find it there, it doesn't exist. It combined and it put together all the links of all the websites, of all the lists of everything that could be helpful to you. Again, it's kashrut.com/Passover, kashrut.com/Passover. I highly recommend that as well. Not necessarily all the links and destinations, but it can help you find a lot. Here are the rules that govern what you need to do in your kitchen, how you prepare your home. You ready? Number one, and all this I could share the Mara Makomas I do each and every year. All the skeptics, all the doubters, it's all there. This is not my own. This is for many, many years, many Gedolei Yisrael have been emphasizing the difference between spring cleaning and getting ready for Pesach. And if you want to spring clean, on our fly into New York last week, we visited Rav Mishor Shlita. And he said the people who call it spring cleaning at market, they're wrong. His wife still, vinegar and wiping down the ceiling fan, I think was his example. And he gave that as, because we're not just cleaning for chametz. You talk about the panemius we just discussed. We're looking for and we're cleaning and we're working on something so much deeper. And so the harder that you clean physically, the more it will inspire us to clean spiritually. And so we should celebrate it. To which my answer is, yes, someone who has that kavana and who goes through that exercise in a way that's making them feel spiritually elevated, tavu alacha bracha. But for the people who that cleaning will cause you to be miserable and hate Pesach and be difficult to be around and come to the Seder as a shmata, don't do spring cleaning. Don't blame your spring cleaning on rabbis and on Yiddishkeit and on Judaism. That's not what the halacha demands. So what does the halacha demand? Number one, based on the Mishnah Pesachim, Daf Beis, Shulchan Aruch, explicit Mishnah Berurah, if during the year chametz is not brought to a particular place or area, there is no need for it to be cleaned or checked for chametz, which means you should never be climbing on a ladder, because unless you ever climb a ladder to eat a sandwich, you do not need to climb a ladder to check for Pesach. So you do not need to clean ceiling fans. That's spring cleaning. Do that in August. Do that in December. Don't do that in April for Pesach, because that's spring cleaning. Unless that's going to give you a deeper pneumius, and you're going to be working on avodah zara in you by doing that, then be gesund. But if it's going to make you miserable, you should never be on a ladder if chametz is not brought there. If you never pull your oven out, if you never pull your refrigerator out of its place to sit and have a sandwich behind it, then you do not need to do that to get ready for Pesach. You should never be moving a major appliance. You don't need to move any major appliance. Any area or place, crawl spaces, ceiling fans, behind major appliances, parts of your home where chametz is never brought. Now, all bets are off a little bit with this, because the Mishnah Berurah points out, if there are young children in a home, there is no place that you can say chametz is never brought. Even young children don't climb ladders and don't move appliances, but it means if you have a home that doesn't have young children, you might have a space that you say, we never eat in the garage. Chametz is never brought, we never have a sandwich in that space. But if there's young children, that may not be true. But that's rule number one. And right away, we've limited the area you have to clean of your home enormously, because it means spaces or areas that chametz never brought. drawers, dressers, bookcases. If chametz is never taken there, you don't have to clean it for Pesach. Number two, if an item is not used on Pesach, there is no need for it to be cleaned and checked. You can seal it and put it away. Now we just took us up to 90% of our house being ready. Because any area that you're not going to go into on Pesach, put a piece of tape on the door, it's ready for Pesach. Any appliance, you don't need to sit with a toothpick and a toothbrush and clean out your food processor even though you're putting it away. Do you know how you prepare your food processor for Pesach? You put it in a box and you put a piece of tape and you put it away. Ready for Pesach. Your food processor, your toaster, you sell the chametz in it, but you take your food processor, you take your toaster, you take your sandwich maker, you take your blender, and you put it in boxes and you put it away. That's the work. Whoever's the chief schlepper, that's the work. Whoever has to carry the box that you sealed, that's the work. But you don't need toothpicks and toothbrushes. You don't need to be scrubbing, because anything that you're not going to use over Pesach. My favorite part of getting ready for Pesach, you know this by now, this is my job. I take the tape, I walk around the kitchen. Yocheved knows she likes to make me happy, so she points to the places that we're not going to be going into for Pesach. Tape, that cabinet's ready. You don't have to take out all the plates and scrub it down and line it and put it back and go through all the... You want to do that at spring cleaning? Do that on your own time. But for Pesach, any cabinet you're not using, tape. Tape on the cabinet, tape on the closet, tape on the room you're not going into, tape on the box with your food processor and your sandwich maker, tape on the cabinet that you're putting all your non-Pesach utensils and ingredients. Tape is your best friend on Pesach, before Pesach. Before Pesach, tape is your best friend on the planet, because most of your home is now ready. Any area you're not going in doesn't need to be cleaned or checked. Anything you're not going to use or any area you're not going to access on Pesach, just put a piece of tape over it, and it and you are ready to go with it. Good, now let's keep going. Crumbs that are inedible by a dog and are not considered chametz, even if they're bigger than a kazayas. So if you have crumbs that are more than 30 grams, but they're inedible even to a dog, they're pasal achilas kelev, they are not chametz. Hapas atma she'ipsha v'nifsal melechol kelev v'malug mashenisracha eina chayav levayer. It's a befer shulchan aruch siv mem beis, siv beis. Everything I'm telling you, I didn't make up. This all, Chaim Sheinberg, the great Gaon, Rav Chaim Pinchas Sheinberg, was very mocked, but he was the first to really emphasize, don't do spring cleaning. He wrote this book, look, we're relying on him. So again, underneath the oven, underneath the refrigerator, in all these areas, how do you make them inedible to a dog? You spray a caustic spray, and now it's ready to go. So you don't need to drive yourself crazy. If you're on your hands and knees, you're not getting rid of Pesach. So if you spray a caustic spray underneath your oven, underneath your refrigerator, and any chametz that might be there is now nifsal me'achila, it's ready to go. There's no need to check for crumbs less than a kazayis if they're dirty and soiled and wouldn't be edible by a human. So if they're inedible by a dog, they're not chametz. If they're edible for a dog but inedible to a human, you don't even have to check. It's a Mishnah Berurah, Taf Mem Beis Sif Katan Lamed Gimel, Davka Kishish Ben Akol Kazayis, Azakli Mitzarfo. It's a Mishnah Berurah there. So therefore, what are we looking for? We are going to now narrow it down and focus in. What are we looking for in our home? Chametz that will be exposed on Pesach, chametz which is less than a kazayas and edible by a human, or chametz even more than a kazayas but edible by a dog. That is all that we're looking for. So you have a playroom and children. Again, all bets are off with children. So that could take you 6 months to get it ready for Pesach. What they could get chametz in, unless what you do is say, I'm taking all these toys, I'm putting them in a big box, tape, my best friend, all ready now. Leave out 3 toys. I tell you this every year, and I'm telling you, I promise you it's true. When you put all the toys away but 3, your children or grandchildren are going to go into that playroom and have a better time than they ever have when the playroom has 1 billion toys. I'll tell you a little secret. If you took all the toys out and all you left with a cardboard box, they would have more fun than all the toys in the world. They'd be more creative, and their imagination would kick in, and they'd have more fun. You want to scrub all the toys down, spring cleaning? Enjoy. Be gesund. Don't blame halacha. Don't blame Torah. You don't have to. Anything, put them all in a big box, tape your best friend, put it away, sweep the playroom. Playroom is ready to go with the 3 toys that are clean, or buy Pesach toys. Every year you take out your box of Pesach toys, put away all the other toys, don't have to clean any of them, and now your playroom is ready to go for Pesach. So I really believe that cleaning the entire house for Pesach is less than a day. It's a few hours. Because if you don't have to go into crawl spaces and hands and knees and stand on a ladder and pull out major appliances and go through dressers of places and closets that chametz never entered, how long does it take to go through each room only where chametz would have entered and only where you're going to access it on Pesach and not put a piece of tape on it? How long does that take? If you want to, as Nashim Tzidkanios have done for time immemorial, spend hours and days and months, and you, like Rebbetzin Shor, can have the kavana that you're being bodek, the avodah zara, and the time, and you're going to be transferred, then please do it. And we'll give you the Woman of Valor Award at the next dinner. It's incredible. I'm not knocking it. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. We're celebrating it, and we should put such people on pedestals. But if that's not where you're at in Tufshin Pei Beis in 2024, understandable, that's not where you're at, then stick with the halacha and spend time in having the energy to have a joy of Pesach, to have the joy of Pesach, and to be preparing in the pnimius of Pesach. So that is all the house. Now we start with the kitchen. House is good? Comfortable with the house? Any questions about getting the house ready? Less than a day, a few hours? Good. Glad we're all on the same page. Next, the kitchen. Let's go through the kitchen. So, kashering a kitchen for Pesach. We have certain rules for kasher. I'm going to give you the background, the halacha, and then you'll understand as we apply it, because we take our tour of the kitchen together. And here's how it goes. We believe a concept of tam ki'ikr. Tam ki'ikr means that not only is mamashis, not only is extant, actual, real food have a status, but even the taste of that food could be embedded within something. Tam ki'ikr. The Gemara has an entire discussion that spans several daf. Where do we learn the principle of tam ki'ikr? Where do we learn the notion that taste has meaning, taste has value, that the taste embedded in something also counts? But the Gemara concludes, taste counts. So if I boil chicken soup in a pot, even if I scrub and clean that pot, and a laboratory can't measure on the surface of the pot the presence of any chicken soup, but we believe that there's chicken soup that is absorbed and embedded in the walls of that pot, and that taste, tam ki'ikr, it has status, which is why I can't on the same day cook in that pot macaroni and cheese, even though it was a sparkling, beautiful, clean pot after I made the chicken soup. But the taste of the chicken soup from the wall of the pot is going to go into my mac and cheese. I'm going to have basar b'chalav. That's forbidden. That's forbidden. How long does taste last in the wall of a kli? It lasts for 24 hours. Me'es leis, 24 hours. After 24 hours, it's called a tam pogum. The taste in the wall of the kli after 24 hours is a spoiled taste. It's not a meaningful taste. It can't add value. It loses its status, which means, you're thinking right now to yourself, that every utensil, if you just wait 24 hours, it's kosher. It goes back to neutral. And the answer is correct. That's true. On a biblical perspective, every utensil after 24 hours reverts back to being neutral. It's not fleshik or milchik or kosher or non-kosher. It goes back to being as if it's brand new after 24 hours. Me'es leis, 24 hours. So why do we have separate milchik and fleshik? Why do we have kosher and non-kosher? All of this was a rabbinic enactment. Why? Because imagine, today's kitchen, the modern kitchen, how many utensils are in the average kitchen? Not just dozens. Probably, I think my wife has hundreds of platters for Shabbos. More than she could ever use. It's a nightmare trying to put a platter away in that cabinet. So there are hundreds in every. What are you going to have, a separate little egg timer for every utensil to calculate the 24 hours? Every fork, every knife? So, Einu ben yomo, atu ben yomo, Chazal, our rabbis came along and said that we have to keep things separate. Why? Because we're afraid, we're fearful, we'll miscalculate. And if you're off by a minute, it was 23 hours and 59 minutes and you made the mac and cheese in the chicken soup pot, you got basar b'chalav. The stakes are high. There's no room for error. And it's easily to have error with so many utensils. And therefore, Rabbi said, separate milchiks and fleshiks, separate kosher and non-kosher. We don't rely on the 24 rule. Good. Can you get the taste embedded in a pot out? How do you get the taste that's embedded in a pot out? So the answer is it depends on how it got embedded in. It's a pasuk. The pasuk tells us we had a war with Midian. And after we fought the war with Midian, we came home with the spoils of the war. And what were the spoils of the war we came home with? Not a new laptop or iPad, not a new flat screen TV. We didn't bring flowers. What did we bring home? Honey, look what I won the war and look what I brought you. The kitchen appliances. That's what we won. So Torah says, wait 1 second though. But how could you use them? These shilas have come up again in our time. How? Because the war in Gaza. My nephew called me from Gaza with such a shaila. In Gaza, what are they eating? What are they cooking with? An army doesn't bring with it a kitchen, a portable kitchen. So what are they doing? They're taking over homes, including of Hamas. They go into their kitchen and they're starting to cook. That's what you have to do to take care of yourself. How do you use those utensils? How do you kasher them? What can you rely on? So the psukim about Midian, the war with Midian, those psukim are relevant yet again. So there the psukim tell us, Kibolo kach polto. The way that taste is absorbed in a utensil, is the same way that the taste gets purged from the utensil. If through heat, then you get it out with heat. If through a liquid medium, then you get it out with a liquid medium. The same way, if through steam, then you get it out with steam. So this background, there's a lot more to say. It's a whole smicha and yoredeya to say. But this background helps you understand, now let's go to the kitchen and how we kasher. The same way taste got absorbed and embedded is the same way that we get it out. So the first thing that we do before we kasher anything is we wait 24 hours. Why do we wait 24 hours? Because now you understand, even if our kashering wasn't right or accurate, by waiting 24 hours, on a biblical level, it's already back to neutral, it's back to kosher. So that's why the first thing we do is clean it very well, sparkling clean, wait 24 hours. Your microwave, your counters, your sink, your pots, your kiddush cups, wait 24 hours before you kasher. Why? 24 hours help us because on a biblical level, midoraisa, it's back to neutral. What's the next thing we do? We ask ourselves, how did it absorb the taste? The way it absorbed the taste is the way we get rid of the taste. So for the microwave, how does a microwave absorb taste? When you cook something in the microwave, you cooked something chametz in the microwave. You heated up a slice of pizza. That's a hate crime. Heating pizza in a microwave is a hate crime. It's terrible. Soggy, disgusting. But you did it anyway because there's someone you hate. I don't know. You did it anyway. So you heated pizza in a microwave and it was soggy and disgusting. But now your microwave is chametz stick. How do you kasher the microwave? First thing you have to do is take out the glass plate. Why? We don't kasher glass. Sfardim kasher glass. Ashkenaz, or they hold glass, doesn't even need to be kashered. Ashkenazim do not kasher glass. All year round, Ashkenazim hold glass, can't absorb or purge. But for Pesach, we're strict. You can't kasher glass, take the glass plate out. That's number one. Number two, you clean your microwave, you wait 24 hours. Number three, how do you kasher the microwave? Well, how did the pizza make the microwave chametz? Steam. The steam produced from the pizza made a chametz. So how do you get the taste out? Steam. How do you produce steam? You take a microwave-safe bowl or cup, and you put it in the microwave long enough that that water produces steam. 10 minutes, 12 minutes. Then you do it a second time, and you move the location so the spot where it was to begin with is kashered now as well. That's how you kasher a microwave, using our principles. Wait 24 hours, eino ben yomo. Then, kabolo kach polto, use steam to kasher it, the same way steam is what made it chametz to begin with. That's a microwave. If you have a convection microwave, it's kasher the same way as an oven. How do you kasher an oven? Well, you wait, clean it very well, and you wait 24 hours. If you don't have self-clean. If you don't have a self-clean, why? Self-clean gets to temperatures that's libun gomer, that is such a high form of kashering, the heat is so intense that you don't even need to clean it. You don't even need to wait 24 hours for it. So intense that you could just right away run the self-clean. If you don't know how good your self-clean is, put a wooden spoon inside your self-clean oven, and when you're finished with the self-clean cycle, you know what you're going to find in the bottom of the oven? A pile of ash. You will not have a wooden spoon any longer. So, libun gomer, you could take, by the way, the grates of your stovetop and put them in the self-clean before you run the self-clean. The grates of your barbecue, if you want to kasher a barbecue, by putting them in your self-clean before you run the self-clean. They will likely get discolored. So if that will bother you, don't do it. They will likely get discolored. That's how intense the heat is. But if you're doing a oven that is self-clean, then you do not need to wait 24 hours. You put it on the self-clean, you run it for a self-clean cycle. What if I woke up, my self-clean cycle didn't finish? If it reached the highest temperature and stayed on it for a significant amount of time, then you're good. But you should try to run the self-clean cycle for the entire amount of time. If it doesn't have self-clean, the way you kasher the oven is you clean it well, wait 24 hours again, so it's eino ben yomo, and then you put it on the highest setting for an hour. Highest setting for a minimum of an hour. That's how you kasher a non-self-clean oven. Convection microwave is like an oven. So you clean it, you kasher it the same way you would an oven, clean it well, wait 24 hours, leave it on the highest setting for an hour. Okay, so we did our microwave, we did our ovens, let's move on. Question. Yes.
Yeah. Have you heard of the hydro clean ovens?
No.
Okay, so
What is it?
there's like something where you pour water in the bottom and it's supposed to clean it. So I don't know if that's like just like.
Does it reach an incredible high temperature? Or it's doing it all without reaching a high temperature? It probably depends on the temperature. We'll look into it afterwards. Hydro clean? Okay, we'll look into it afterwards. Yes. Oh, so you can kasher. I would use a styrofoam bowl or cup. Sorry for the seals. Environmentalists. A microwave safe thing. You can kasher in anything that's not a ben yomo. So if you want to kasher your kiddush cups in a huge pot, just use a pot that hasn't been used in 24 hours. So any vessel that hasn't been used in 24 hours can be used for kashering. If you want, we're doing kashering at the shul. When is that? Next Sunday? Next Sunday. So feel free to utilize that as well. Okay, that is the microwave and that is the oven. Let's go to countertops. So similarly, how did the countertop absorb? I'll tell you another rule. 2 kalim can't transfer taste. If you have a milchik pot and a fleshik pot, and they're both 300 degrees and they're touching, there's no problem. There has to be a liquid between them in order for a ta'am to be able to transfer between the two. 2 vessels themselves can't transfer taste. There has to be steam or liquid or something between them. So when you put your vessel down on your countertop, that doesn't make the counter have that status. We're worried about a spill. We're worried about steam. We're worried that you put your dirty spoon on the countertop. That's how it absorbed the taste. That's how it was bolaya. So how would you get rid of it? With something called irui kli rishon. You pour boiling water from a vessel over the countertop, and that's how you kasher. Not all materials are kasherable. Not all materials are kasherable, but those that are kasherable, the way you kasher, clean it well, the countertop, and start the clock on your 24 hours. Start the clock on the 24 hours. The best time to kasher is a Motzei Shabbos, because you clean and you set aside. Tape is your best friend. Tape off the sink, tape off the counter, so that your moron husband and children don't reset the clock and ruin everything and set off the whole schedule of everything you were going to do. So tape, signs, the 24-hour clock on the kitchen. But that's the best time. I find the best time is a Motzei Shabbos to kasher, because Shabbos anyway, you're not engaging in cooking and the kitchen the ordinary way it's used. Clean the counter, wait 24 hours. Take water that's mala ababuos. It's a onomatopoeia, where the word sounds like what it's describing. The Gemara uses the language of mala ababuos. Mala ababuos means it's bubbling. Ababuos, it's bubbling over. You have to heat the pot. The water can't just be producing steam. That's not called boiling water. To qualify as boiling water to kasher, it has to be mala ababuos. It has to be bubbling up. And to do iroi, proper iroi, is not just I pour it on this side of the counter and then it runs along the whole counter. I have to walk with the pot and pour it along the whole counter so the boiling water runs and hits each part of the surface of the counter. So if it's a counter, the CRC guide has a handy list, 2 pages, pages 28 and 29, of countertops. Did you know that there are 2 pages? There's got to be, 60, 50 types of countertops. Acrylic, Avenite, Blue Louise, Buddy Rhodes, Butcher Block, Stone, Cambria, Cement, Ceramic Tile, Chang Design, Concrete, Copper, Korean, Cosmos. We're just in the C's. We haven't even made it to the D's. That's how many types. Who knew? So you could ask me. I'm happy to answer. Or you could save us both and go right to the CRC guide, whether your countertop qualifies to kasher. Formica. Can you kasher formica? We paskin, yes, you can. You can kasher formica, but it should be carefully cleaned. The seams, if they're cracks, then you can't. If there's scratches, deep scratches, you can't. But a formica that's generally smooth, you can. Put a piece of tape along the seams. Seams could be a problem, but otherwise you can kasher it. The alternative to kashering it in my home, once we got a new kitchen several years ago, I still call it new, which is the best way of having to replace it, is if you keep calling it the new kitchen. So our new kitchen, so my wife refused to let me kasher with iroi on the countertops because the water pours over into the cabinets. It can warp them. It can destroy them. So what do? So we cover them. There's an entire business now where you can get someone to come, measure, cut, cover them. I'll tell you a benefit of covering them. Not only do you save your cabinets, and also you save your legs. I'll tell you something very scary. One of our beloved custodians, I won't say his name because I don't know if he wants it public, but this week there was a terrible, terrible accident, and the hot water urn, spilled on his legs. He was taken to the hospital. He has 2nd-degree burns all over his legs. Baruch Hashem, he's fine. Baruch Hashem. It's dangerous. A person has to take extreme, extreme care. That was the hot water from an urn. It's not even mala ababuos. It's not even the temperature of what we kasher with. And it's capable of giving at least 2nd-degree burns. Very, very dangerous. The person has to be very careful. We had white Formica countertops in our kitchen, and we had these blue. They were melamine, I don't know what material it was, with contact paper, this blue contact paper. For Pesach, our kitchen looked different. Second that and the kids had fun, we went down to the basement, we put them up. Where does it go? Each one, what does it fit? It was a fun activity. And then the kitchen for 8 days looked different. And then when you took them off and you went back, that's what the kitchen looked like. Now that's the chametz kitchen. These little things that would embed the memories. They embed the memories. So yeah, you could kasher granite, you could kasher all these Formica, and the kitchen looks exactly the same. There's nothing wrong with it. Just giving my little editorial comment here. The benefit also of covering it is it embeds these memories. Oh, that's the Pesach look. It looks different. That's how I remember it. I remember vividly remember vividly the way our kitchen looked growing up and the activity of finding it. And right now also, take the pieces and the parts and how and taping them together and covering them. And you can't just cover with something thin or contact paper. Anything that heat or taste could transfer through is not good enough. You can't put aluminum foil on your countertops. That's not good enough. You need something that's an actual barrier. You need something that creates that difference. So you need an actual cover for the counter, but that's another alternative. Can you use steam? Amazon, $50. You're going to buy some steam gun. Can you use steam? The steamer you're going to use for when you go on the business trip for your suit before you walk into the conference. No, not good enough. You can't kosher with steam. Steam does not kosher. Industrial steamers could work, but only if the steam produces a liquid and the liquid remains over 212 degrees. Only then could you kosher with it. So therefore, the average steamer from Bed Bath & Beyond, the average steamer from Amazon is not kosher. There are people koshering their kitchens with steamers that they're not koshering. They're not koshering because by the time the steam hits the countertop, the liquid is not the temperature it needs to be to kosher. So it doesn't qualify. Iroi kli rishon, pouring of the water, or covering the counters. That is the counters. Different countertops qualify. Some do and some don't. Yes.
Caustic spray, for example.
Yeah.
You don't put food on your counter normally. You don't eat off your counter. Why is there such a extreme?
Because we don't know. You don't. You don't know who was in your house, who put down the hot pot, who put down the hot spoon, who took the thing out of the microwave and put it down, and it spilled. It was so hot. The countertop is very accessible, open, and the place that you put things. So it's unlikely that in an entire year there wasn't some chametz that got up. Now again, waiting 24 hours, reset your countertop as kosher and Pesach and neutral, but we're strict because chametz has all those stringencies to kosher it nonetheless.
Clear plastic, big plastic.
A thick clear plastic could also be 100%, 100. Yes.
Is there a difference between your regular steamer like you use for clothes versus the pressure steamer? You got the real pressure steamer.
So again, there are steamers, but you'd need to have a heat gun. I think everybody Flug has one. You'd have to shoot it at the steam when it condensed into water on the counter to see if it maintained the temperature. So if something qualifies, then you'd also very patiently have to run it over every single spot, every area. So it could be. Every year I wonder why someone doesn't invent the Pesach kashering steamer with the endorsement of Poskim and a guide of how to do it. I don't know. Again, feel free to take it. Royalties go to BRS. I don't need it for myself. Run with it. Do it. I think it's halachically complicated to design, and it's also very complicated and time-consuming to actually use. That's why maybe nobody's done it. Yes. Still not good enough. Even heavy aluminum foil is not thick enough to be a cover for the counter. We use it on top of a stovetop also because we need something that's flame resistant, but it's not enough for the countertop. Sink. Depends what your sink is made out of. Stainless steel can be kashered. How do you kasher it? Clean it well, leave it 24 hours, and then again, the same way it absorbed is how it is purged. Take boiling water, mala ababuos, bubbling, really hot, and pour it over again. You can't just splash it. Pour it over the surface of the sink. If there's a trap or a filter, better to replace it for Pesach, take it out, or you could kasher it in your pot of boiling water. If your sink, you also have to kasher the entire faucet, so pour it over the faucet soap dispenser. If you have tubing that comes out, also best to pull it out and kasher it. We paskin, you could kasher hard plastic, but it's best as a stringency not to pull out the sink tubing on Pesach. That's what the CRC recommends. If you don't have a sink that's kasherable, then you put a sink insert, which is you buy a basin, you cut a hole to be the drain, and you put the sink insert if you don't have a sink which you can kasher. So stainless steel or Korean sink can be kashered. Others, a ceramic sink cannot be kashered. Stovetops. Yes, question.
Hot water dispenser. You have to take the filter off, unscrew the
So it depends. Again, if you took hot water that went right into oatmeal, chametz, and the steam of the oatmeal came up and made it, you should take it off and you should kasher it by dipping it into boiling water. Okay. Stovetops and ovens. Ovens we did. Stovetops. So if you have a gas stove, which exists here in Florida, but is less popular, but if you have a gas stove, then you kasher the gas stove by leaving the burners on high for whatever amount of time, 12 minutes, 15 minutes, until it kashers the grate, or you can put the grate through the self-clean oven. Yeah.
Same clean, wait 24 hours before?
Yeah, sorry, clean, wait 24 hours, and then kasher the stovetop, put aluminum foil in all the catch areas between the grates themselves, cover the knobs also, cover the knobs and cover the areas. You could also kasher the knobs. But again, you might melt off the high, low, medium. Trust me. If you try to kasher the knobs, you might melt the knobs or melt off the labels of the knobs. So be careful. Or alternatively, you can cover them. That is a gas stovetop. Also, the backsplash of the stovetop, you should put aluminum foil there, or you could kasher by pouring iroi, the water, but the backsplash of the stovetop, the backsplash of the countertop should be kasher as well. So if you cover, you should cover those areas as well. Sometimes the pot leans up against the backsplash or liquid splashes in that area as well. Next is glass, much more popular here in Florida, glass stovetops, where the heating element is embedded in the glass top stove. Again, wait 24 hours, and And here there's a debate exactly how to do it, and it's changed over the years, not because the halacha has changed, but people have had to learn how it is and how it works. You leave the burner. The area of the burner is kashered by leaving it on high until it glows, and then it's kashered. We said Ashkenazim, we can't kasher glass for Pesach. So what do you do about a glass top stove? What do we do about the glass top stove? So some say put the 4 burners on high till the area glow, cover the areas in between, but that can crack the glass top stove, so be very careful. Some say just put like trivets or things to put the spoon or the lid on in the area. Some say put the metal round circle that you put over. So if the pot circumference is bigger than but what I say, based on the poskim I've spoken to, my rebbeim, is that you can heat water and run it on the glass top stove, because there are rishonim that you can rely on that you can kasher the glass through iroi, plus putting it on high, plus there is an opinion, which is probably how we really paskin, that like the Sfardim, that glass doesn't need to be kashered. And if you do all that, your glass top stove is ready to go. But be careful nonetheless not to put anything between the burners over Pesach. Don't put a spoon down between the burners. Don't put the lid down between the burners. Don't move a pot into the area between the burners. Use the burner even if the pot is bigger than the burner. Use the burners, then take it off. Don't use the areas in between. That is the glass top stove. An electric stove that's not glass top, again, leave the burner on high till it glows and cover with tinfoil in the area between the burners. That is the stovetop. Refrigerator. Induction. You can't kasher induction, but what you can do is get a mat. When you put one of the mats over it and on top of it, make sure nothing touches the actual surface of the induction, but you put a mat on top of it. That barrier makes it eligible for Pesach. Yes?
To go back with on a gas stove, in terms of the knobs, if you don't use tin foil, the other thing is to take them off and put boiling water on them?
No, you could take the knobs and put them in boiling water and kasher them. Then you don't have to cover them. It's great, but it could melt them. If it works, it's great. You could also go on Amazon. We live in an incredible time and world. And you take the brand of your stove, and then you buy Pesach knobs. So you just switch out the knobs for Pesach. So you're not going to melt them, and you don't have to cover them. And you get Pesach knobs. Almost everything you can get on Amazon, like the piece and the part of the thing, of the whatever, somebody else. So I don't know what they cost, if they're incredibly expensive, but that is an option. Refrigerator. Clean it well and line the shelves. Don't perforate whatever you line them with so the airflow continues. You don't want to break your refrigerator. Try to clean the accordion door of the accordion rubber on the door of the refrigerator and the freezer. And the easiest way to do that is spray a caustic spray, so it's inedible to a dog. And now even if there's chametz mixed in there, it's not considered to be chametz. The freezer should be defrosted. Often Jewish freezers are overpacked, because we have challahs and leftovers and challah rolls. We have all kinds of things that regular people don't freeze. Our freezers look like we're ready for Armageddon. And so therefore you should defrost the freezer, because chametz could be frozen against the side of the freezer, and defrost the freezer, let it get defrosted, and it's ready to go. Line the refrigerator freezer, and now your fridge and freezer are ready to go. A warming drawer. Can a warming drawer be kashered? Some of the agencies say no. That's why I like the CRC. It says yes. How do you kasher the warming drawer? The warming drawer is not kashered with turning it on at all. You put a chafing dish, like a sterno can, in the warming drawer. Clean it well, leave it 24 hours. Then put a chafing dish, a chafing fuel in, and leave the drawer open a drop so air can circulate, so air for combustion, and leave that sterno burning for 2 hours. And the temperature will rise to such a level that your warming drawer is now kosher for Pesach. For many people, that warming drawer is a lifesaver. Okay, any part of the kitchen that we did not cover? Sterno should burn for 2 hours.
Does the warming drawer survive that process?
Yeah, we do it every year. We do it every year. Leave the drawer open a little bit, and it's perfectly fine. I take no responsibility, liability, disclaimer, but that's it. Yes.
Do you have to line it with silver foil after?
Nope, it's kosher. Just like your oven, ready to go. Your microwave, it's all good to go. All good to go. Anything else about the kitchen?
What is case lining the refrigerator?
We use paper towels.
Okay.
Paper towels. And I will say this, again, it's symbolic. Strictly speaking, your refrigerator is cold. By definition, it can't absorb a taste. You've cleaned it well. You've sprayed everything down with a caustic spray. But there is a tradition that we have. It's a Masora Minhag Avosenu B'Yadeinu that we line it nonetheless. It shouldn't sit on the same tray. But you don't have to start doing arts and crafts of taping paper towel together and you missed a millimeter in the corner and you didn't. Just put a piece of paper towel down. Shine. You're good to go. Okay, that is the kitchen. Yes.
What kind of things can you leave in your refrigerator if you don't want to get rid of? I think one time you said you could like leave a section.
So you could leave a shelf of the refrigerator. We do this. We have a second refrigerator, also a very Jewish thing. Are there any non-Jews who have a second refrigerator? Like, do they even happen? I don't even know. Only Jews need the second refrigerator because we have Shabbos and Yom Tov. I'm not talking about our eating habits alone, but also Shabbos. Yeah, once a year. For once a year, they rent the refrigerator. So we do this. We put all the chametz items, let's say the open ketchups and mustards and all those things, on a shelf, and then we take a garbage bag or whatever else plastic you want to use, and we tape and we cover that refrigerator. So if you tape it and you cover it and you sell it, now you're good to go. Yeah, you can do it in the same fridge. Designate a shelf with your chametz things, tape it and cover it so you won't have access to it. And you're selling it with your chametz. The chametz that's in there, you're selling. It could be chametz. Ketchup has vinegar, or vinegar has chametz. It could have chametz. Yeah, when you fill out, you write my kitchen. You don't even have to say which shelf. You just in the refrigerator, in the kitchen, there's chametz and it's included. Yes. That's a good question. I don't think so. Also, because the aluminum foil conducts heat, so I don't know if that's going to help you from taste transferring between. So I'm not sure how many layers of heavy duty would have to qualify to be a separation, but I think generally we try to stay away from tin foil as the cover of the counter. Yeah. Yeah. Put it away.
Do I then have to itemize it on the set?
No, again, you can, but you don't have to.
You don't have to.
Say all my appliances that have chametz, I'm selling chametz. You don't want to sell your appliances or your dishes. Why? Because after Pesach, you're going to have to bring them all to the mikveh again. If you sold actually your silverware, your dishes, your appliances, and a non-Jew owned it, when you reacquire them after Pesach, you're going to have to bring them to the mikveh, tefillas kalim. So you're selling the chametz in them, you're not selling them. Very important. You're selling the chametz in them, you're not selling them.
You say I'm selling this closet, everything in this closet.
Yeah, the chametz in the closet. Chametz in the closet. Yes.
What about items in the freezer that you should not have in your possession at all? I mean, like, besides bread, is there anything else?
Again, you could designate a shelf of it and cover it. As long as it's covered and inaccessible, it's okay. Yes.
Can I go back to the self-clean on the oven?
Yeah.
Is there a certain amount of time that we know it reached the highest temperature if you really don't want to run it the entire period?
You should try to run it the whole time. If it doesn't run because it's broken or it quit or it hit a temperature that has some automatic shut off, but it hit that highest temperature, I'm not sure what that minimum amount of time is. An hour? I'd say certainly an hour. You're good. Okay, that is the kitchen. What could be kosher? You didn't ask me about towels and tablecloths. Vinyl tablecloths you can't kosher for Pesach. You should have a Pesach like vinyl if you're into the whole vinyl thing with the charger and the plate and the matching flowers and the whatever. If you're using a regular old-fashioned tablecloth, you can run it through the washing machine koshers. If you ran towels or tablecloths through a washing machine, they are kosher for Pesach and they are good to go. No, I think if it's clean and with the laundry detergent, it makes anything that were in it being nifsal, it would be possible. It's good to go. Okay?
How about dining room table? You have to have
Covered. It should be covered.
Just one cover.
It should be preferably with two cover. We tape plastic over the dining room table and kitchen table, and then use a tablecloth on top of that, the way you'd ordinarily have milchik or fleshik or a placemat. But the covering is there. Yeah.
What about the protective, like, cover? Yeah, the pads are like, there's like a table.
The pads are okay. You don't have to replace the pad. Yeah, the pads are okay.
No, then you don't need to double it. You have your dining room pad.
Yeah, I don't
and
think
a
so.
tablecloth.
I think you're okay.
How about mitts? But it's a year-round.
Mitts, oven mitts.
pad.
You should have different ones for Pesach. Yeah. Yeah, the year-round pad is okay. It's okay. Yeah. Okay. Kitchen we've covered.
Rabbi, I don't have to sell the old dishes.
You shouldn't sell the dishes.
I
You're selling the chametz that is in those dishes or chametz in those possessions, but not the dishes. Yes,
Sorry, defrosting the freezer, is that an absolute necessary?
it should be done. It should be done. Are there exceptions if someone didn't do it? What would the halacha be? No, there's some people still have a freezer, a little freezer, and a lot of frost builds up, and that one pita that you saved from one time that you think you're still going to ever use, which is the most disgusting thing of all time, is now frozen to the side of your backup little freezer, and you can't peel it off. So you should defrost it. Okay. I'm really going to refer. I don't want to spend any time. I really think we could wrap up. I'm going to refer you to the CRC shopping guide. We could talk about milk and eggs should be bought before Pesach. Try to buy everything that you're going to need for Pesach before Pesach. There's a couple reasons that we do that I'm not going to get into now. If you run out of milk or eggs, go to a kosher supermarket and buy it there because you know that they have it from before Pesach. So bittul has applied to it. But you can go to Publix or Winn-Dixie or Target or Walmart. I'm not trying to favorite anybody. You can buy milk or eggs anywhere before Pesach, but from before Pesach. On Pesach, only buy from a kosher supermarket because that you have to have from before Pesach. In terms of other things you want to know about baby carrots and antacids and caraway seeds and everything else, CRC shopping guide. If you have a big shopping later today, take your phone with the app and have your CRC shopping guide is your best friend. CRC shopping guide. The CRC shopping guide has three symbols. A check mark means you're good to go with no Pesach certification. So water is all good to go. Unflavored seltzer, it's machlokas. CRC is actually strict on this, but you could be lenient like the Sarkei. I looked into it, the reasons why. Unflavored seltzer is okay. There, you have a shopping guide. There's a check mark. Things that don't need to be kosher Pesach. There's a little triangle. That doesn't mean you can buy triangle K. The little triangle means it needs to be Pesach, kosher Pesach. Things that have to be kosher Pesach. And X means not good for Pesach ever. So for example, CBD oil is kitniyot, never good for Pesach. Don't know why I gave that as the example, but that was the example. That was an example. What's another example? Cumin. Am I pronouncing that properly? Cumin. Cumin is kitniyot. Dill. Seeds are kitniyot. Leaves are okay. Cumin. Cumin is kitniyot.
It doesn't say kitniyot. If you go get it, Eric, it does not say kitniyot.
CRC says cumin is kitniyot on their shopping guide.
Years ago, it wasn't. They never said years ago. So if I have an old bottle from years ago, I can still use it.
If it's from a I'll look into it. I'll ask them.
I mean, it's like 5 years ago. 5 years ago, they said kitniyot.
Listerine pocket packs are kitniyot. Would require Pesach certification. Mustard is kitniyot. That's going to always be an X. A triangle might be pecan pieces, nuts. Has to be kosher Pesach. Other nuts, including chopped, are acceptable without certification if free of BHA and BHT and are not blanched, roasted, or ground. Again, I don't want to take our time. CRC shopping guide is your best friend. I will highlight, I asked Rabbi Fagelstock, our wonderful with the ORB, to give me a list of what might be, I should mention that resource too, but some of the things this year that people don't know. So here they are. Cocoa powder is acceptable if 100% pure and not processed in Europe. All Hershey's cocoa powder are acceptable except special dark. So cocoa powder. Quinoa needs to be kosher for Pesach. It's not kitniyot. Quinoa is okay, but it has to be kosher for Pesach. Chosen avocado oil is okay for Pesach. Extra virgin olive oil is okay for Pesach without being kosher for Pesach. Costco shmur matzah is muhudar even if it's sold in Costco. What did you say? Extra virgin olive oil. Costco shmur matzah. Shelled pecan pieces require Passover certification. The raw ones I just told you. There's a couple links here that are worthwhile to share. CERES. How do you pronounce that? Juice. Sarah's juice, even with kosher for Pesach, is not okay for Pesach. Yeah. I don't know why that. Yeah, sorry. We don't like South Africa right now. They're not good to Israel. So I'm not sure what that's about. So, but if you stay tuned, the last thing I'll tell you, the last resource is that Rabbi Fagelstock runs, the ORB has an incredible WhatsApp. All year round, people ask questions. And it's incredible. He answers right away. And it's likely questions you'll have. And you can search on it. So maybe someone asked a question that you have already. And you could go back to it. And it's really incredible. I'll just end with cosmetics and medicines. Every year the CRC has a letter that's signed by Zion First, Rabbi Reese, major postscript in Chicago, but applies everywhere. Anything that's inedible is not chametz. So that's like 99% of your cosmetics. It's not edible. It doesn't have to be kosher Pesach. I know there was a big rabbi who put out a thick book and people went crazy every year, but that's not the halacha. The strict halacha and the halacha that we follow is that cosmetics are by definition inedible and they don't have to be kosher Pesach. The one exception might be denatured alcohol. If you remember, Kitty Dukakis was an alcoholic and used to drink the perfume bottle. I don't remember why that stands out. An alcoholic and desperate might even drink denatured alcohol, so it might be edible. So maybe perfumes need to be checked. But generally speaking, cosmetics are all permissible. Medicines, any medicine in a pill form is permissible. Liquid and chewable might have kitniyot. Ask a question, but a person should never stop medicines they need without asking the question. Certainly they should not stop a medicine they need without asking the question. All of this is in the CRC guide as well. I highly, highly recommend it. Pets, you could feed kitniyot to a pet. You can't feed chametz to a pet. So you need to start changing your pet's diet or sell your pet. Now you can't sell your pet but keep your pet in your house. That's not a real sale. That's a harama. If you sell your pet, you need to give your pet to somebody else who you sold it to. If you have a housekeeper, you have a non-Jewish friend or neighbor, you could sell your pet, give your pet their responsibility to feed the pet and so on. Okay. Any questions?
One thing about a pet, because I have a dog, if my food for my dog, the kitniyot has some actually non-cooked trait meat in it. It says chicken, but there's other things I've read in it. Can I sell my dog or the food when I'm not supposed to?
No, if it's just kitniyot and not chametz, you could even feed that to the dog yourself. It's only if you were feeding chametz that would be a problem. The CRC guide also has a great section about pet food and pets and many more details and lists of different foods here as well. Foods available at zoos are chametz. So if you are Jewish and go on a Chol Hamoed trip to the zoo, then don't buy those little food in the dispenser in your hand and feed it because they likely have chametz as well in them. Cats, dogs, ferrets, hedgehogs, birds, fish, reptiles, amphibians. So I wonder who at the CRC got this job. Small mammals, to go investigate all their foods and diets and what best advice there is for them. But it's all included in the outstanding guide here as well. So machlokas about mouthwash and toothpaste. CRC is strict. There are lists. Most of our Colgates and so on are on them, but check them against the list. The Star K has a great medicine list. I highly recommend it. If you go to that kashrut.org/Passover, it has all the lists, and you can check a list. Most of the classic toothpaste and mouthwashes are on it. Yeah, the car should be cleaned. Car should be cleaned for Pesach. If you're going away and no one's using your car, then you don't have to clean your car. But if you're using a car on Pesach, it should be cleaned for Pesach. Vacuumed and cleaned. Absolutely.
What did you say about the triangle K, like the vintage seltzer?
Triangle K is okay on some things, but despite the triangle K, meaning as a hechsher, we don't rely on the triangle K, but some things are okay.
Unflavored seltzer.
Yeah, then it's okay. That's okay. Yes.
Going back to the playroom a second, toys. Can you not rely on the crumbs, the halachic being crumbs? Like, let's say you generally don't allow food in the playroom.
It depends. If it's edible to a dog and bigger than a kazayas, it could be a problem. So if there was a piece of a bagel, of a donut, of an intimate hole, of a pretzel, it could be a problem. It could be a problem. So it should be cleaned. But if you want to not have to go through the toys tremendously, then you can package them, tape them, and put them away. Tape is your very best friend. Most importantly, don't forget the pnimius of Pesach. That it should be a chag kosher v'sameach. It should be a chag sameach v'kosher. It should be a happy Pesach and a beautiful lebedik Pesach and a Pesach of Geula that brings the redemption. Yeah. Or put it away. Tape it up. Put it in a cabinet. Tape it. It doesn't need a box. Put it away. Put it away. Tape it up in a way that will not be accessible. Thank you for coming for this ride. Look forward to doing it again together next year in Yerushalayim, where we'll say all the same things yet again.